Over the winter of 24-25, I built the Barrowspace radio-controlled schooner Annie, designed by Gary Webb. I did it as a diversion and a challenge. Although I had to do most of the many construction tasks twice in order to come close to getting things right, I think the overall result turned out pretty well, although I haven't yet had the boat in the water. That's coming soon. The last of the many building tasks consists of casting a lead bulb onto the bottom of the aluminum fin keel. This is the task that had me the most spooked right from the start, from when I first looked at the plans. An albatross around my neck all winter. Gary's plans show an example of creating a bulb mold out of wood, and the plans give overall length and width dimensions. I tried to simulate the tapered torpedo shape by copying the drawing and then scaling it up and down, above and below what appeared to be the center. About that time, I showed my handiwork to my son, who is an exec at 3D printing company Formlabs. He thought a better mold was rather possible. I gave him Gary's keel drawings, and he then worked with a Formlabs CAD expert to create a file that could be sent to a Formlabs printer. Printed mold in hand, I headed north to my seasonal cottage on Manitoulin Island, where I knew I had a stash of lead and a big wide open gravel laneway where I could work safely. So then came the challenge of melting lead. I cut about 12 pounds off a 50-pound pig that I had removed from my full-size catch, but I knew not how to melt it, a question that had been bugging me for months. So I tried charcoal and found it was not up to the task. At least not the way I tried it in a fire bowl. A good cottage neighbor suggested I try the burner from a turkey fryer, and he loaned me one. Hooked up to a full tank of propane, it had no trouble melting lead. In fact, it liquefied the big chunk in just a few minutes. Previously I'd found, held onto, and I eventually used a discarded old steel pot, which had a solid steel handle and a pour spout, both of which I think are important considerations. I scraped off the dross with an old kitchen spoon. Terrified but determined, I proceeded to clamp a channel lock pliers onto the side of the pot, and then, equipped with thick leather gloves and pot holders, poured the liquid lead into the mold. I was astonished that the pour went without problem and that I had what seemed to be the right amount of lead. But while waiting overnight for the lead to cool, I worried that because I hadn't used a release agent, the lead would stick to the mold and I would have to chip it all off and start over. But once again astonished, I had absolutely no problem opening and removing the mold. Remarkable material, whatever Formlabs used to make this mold. Give it a few taps. Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. Looks pretty darn good. Voila. Mission accomplished. Boy, that's a nice heavy keel. The bulb came out of the mold an almost perfectly tapered torpedo, with just a slight overspill from a not quite tight seam at the bottom. And of course the sprue, which is an item and a term that's brand new to me. A few minutes with the hacksaw and file took care of all that. Slightly off topic, but related, I'd like to direct attention to the blocks that are part of the running rigging on the schooner Annie. 12 or 13 of them, I believe. Gary has a nifty technique for making them of wood by hand, but with my big, clumsy meat hooks, a better method was almost essential. Luckily for me, there was one. So, here's the finished result of my first metal casting project, now in its proper place as a crucial component of the lovely schooner Annie. Assuming the schooner floats and is controllable, she's going to be one very stiff and likely very fast boat.